Hey everyone, welcome to another episode. My name is Kalen from Gamut, and we get a lot of questions about what it takes to build LUTs and kind of our process and how we create looks, how we clean them up, how we make sure that they're dialed in for the vast difference of shots and different type of footage. And so I'm going to kind of pull back the curtains a little bit in this video and show you some of those steps. And hopefully this is helpful and interesting. I don't see a lot of people discussing this topic necessarily, but we're going to be going over the final steps that I do right before we publish our LUT packs and right before we make sure, before we do any kind of delivery, we kind of get the core look dialed in, and then we go through and do our LUT stress testing and clean up any kind of imperfections that might have happened through some pushing and pulling of the image that might be a little bit abrupt. And I'm going to kind of show you the different tools that we use, because natively, whenever I'm using DaVinci Resolve to kind of create these looks, for the most part, I've noticed that if there's some things that I need to fix, this is not the best tool to tweak some of those imperfections that I've noticed. And a lot of the time, some of these imperfections just naturally happen when you're tearing apart the image or pushing it. And so I use two other tools, which I'll be going over later in this video. One is called Lattice, and that's from Video Village. And then the second one is called 3DLUT Creator, which they were the original program that came up with the idea of the color warper that we know in DaVinci Resolve. At least that's how I see it. So we're going to dial in some of those favorite settings and some tools that you probably haven't heard of. And if you make your own LUTs and you want to kind of distribute them, this is going to be an important episode for you to make sure that you're getting a really good looking, working LUT for your deliverables. Also, if you stay to the end of this video, we are going to have a section where in the next episode that we do live, we're going to allow you to submit LUTs to us, and we're going to do a live and show you how we can clean up your LUT and make sure that it's optimized for all different type of cameras and on type of footage. So stick around because you don't want to miss that. We also do have a link to that type form to submit your LUTs, which I'll discuss later in this video, but that is going to be in the description. So let's go ahead and dive in and go over these final steps that we take whenever we're getting ready to move our LUTs into the delivery aspect of production. All right, so the first thing that I do whenever it comes to the final steps here is I have some workable frames that I use to analyze to make sure that these LUTs are working well and proper. So I have a few here that shows the different color spectrums in different layouts. This one we have with some skin tone. Then we've got some steps from the grayscale, and we're going to be able to use these to identify issues within LUTs. So we're going to start off the bat and talk about one of these brand new LUTs that we just launched. It's an orange and teal LUT collection that we launched a couple months ago called Faction. And in Faction, I have to work in the LAB color space to really hone in and develop this look. Now, whenever I was developing it, I'm really pushing the shadows hard, and some of that causes some issues with the curve, and it's not easily maintained or easily able to clean up the shadows natively in Resolve without altering the image in the way that I didn't want. So I'm going to show you this first pass. We're going to go ahead and turn on this LUT. This was our Faction 6 LUT. And then we're going to look at our scopes to kind of look at how is this impacting the image. And you can see here with our vector scope that we're seeing some patches of darkness here where we're feeling the image tear a little bit, and some of the edges might be a little more abrupt in this image. And then we can look up here and we can see it honestly looks pretty good on this image. You know, we see a harsher blue line next to the pink and purple, which is very common whenever you're working in the LAB color space and you're separating blues and purples. That's a hue spectrum you have to be careful of in particular. So that's one of those looks. But for another reference, we can look at this image and see how this one looks. Honestly, this looks good. We wouldn't see any issues when we're looking at this image. When we look at this one, again, everything seems like, oh, the LUT's looking really great. I don't see any issues. Well, we're going to work our way to the grayscale image right here. And this is where you're going to see this really intense drop off in the shadow region. And we're going to tone down our waveform so you can see the colors There we go, red, green, and blue. And it's the red channel where it's dropping off extremely quick. And we kind of want to have a little bit more of a smoother roll off here. And we can go in and try to tweak this, but whenever I was working through Resolve to kind of finesse it, it was overcompensating or undercompensating and just causing more issues and the image changing than I wanted to. And I'm going to show you how we actually fix this to get it working without hardly altering the image whatsoever and maintaining that fidelity. Now let's take a look at another LUT to kind of see what that looks like. I'm going to go ahead and use the 2383 D60 LUT that comes with DaVinci Resolve, and we're going to use the Cineon Color Space Transform before it, and then we can see what this looks like. If you wanted to see it on some footage, we can see it here, and the image looks really good. It's got a really nice film characteristic look to it. But then when we go to these screens, these images, we're gonna try to analyze and see if it's gonna fall apart. This one looks pretty good. Let's pull up our scopes. Looks fairly good. Come over here. This one, we just see darker greens, darker blues, darker reds. That's fine. This one looks great as well. But again, we get over to here and we start noticing a little bit of rough curves happening on this this curve down here, especially the red channel again. So we know that this is causing a little bit of an issue. It's not really going to be that noticeable, but I want to make sure that this is really smoothed out for the vast majority of clips, and it's just going to be more pleasing overall. So this is something that we're also going to fix, and I'll show you how to clean that up. Let's disable it, and we're going to go to Bad LUT number 1. All right, so Bad LUT number 1, you can see this is actually a LUT that was created from Lightroom, and the look, honestly, is kind of a cool look. You can see it really darkens the greens, gives pure whites, gets some warm skin tones overall. It looks pretty good, but we know that when we're looking at this image, oh man, it is tearing apart right here 100%. Vector scope looks really rough. We're going to come over to this one. You can see the green patch and the pink patch. This one we don't see too many issues with. And then obviously here we see some stepping happening on the curves. So this one is definitely going to need some work. And then the last one will be even more abrupt where we have some issues in the shadows. And it's just not going to be working very well. But let's turn this into a LUT that we can actually use, and it still looks cohesive with the color palette that's intended, but also is blended well for delivery. That's important. So let's go ahead and start off by navigating to our first tool, and that's going to be over in 3DLUT Creator. So this is 3DLUT Creator, and I've already loaded Bad LUT number 1. So we're looking at Bad LUT number 1. This is a clip. If I want to go ahead and just turn it off, you can see the before shot, and then we can see the after effect. The big thing that we're going to need to look at is the analyzer. This is what I use primarily whenever I'm trying to clean up a LUT, is the analyzer, and we're going to enable this circle scope right here. And when we're looking at this, you can see that it is just being destroyed. This LUT is tearing apart, and we don't want that effect. There is this tool function that is really helpful. There's a couple that we can use in 3DLUT Creator that is absolutely phenomenal. Two things. We can come over here to this drop down next to this LUT in 3DLUT Creator, and we can extract the curve information and manipulate the curves part of this LUT. So we're going to go extract RGB curves from external LUT. And nothing changed. All we've noticed though is it's now transferred over to the curves panel over here. We can look at the curves and we can manipulate the curves of a LUT, which is absolutely crazy. So if you come over here, we now can see the red, green, and blue channels and all these steps, and I can grab it and fix that if I want to. So that's a really powerful tool that I've used in 3DLUT Creator. I could always come over here and I can do M to RGB, which is going to take the luminance and switch it to the main channel right here. So now that red, green, and blue is just getting some of that color information, and we realize that the luminance is the problem here. So we can go ahead and then click smooth and just be smoothing out this curve and now it's cleaning up that curve. So that is one way to do that. The other way, let me go ahead and see if I can undo some of these without getting too many errors. And then we're going to move into my next secret sauce that I've never shared with anybody. But this tool is absolutely phenomenal. We're going to go back to the mask tab, come down here to the drop down. Let's go ahead and reset this LUT. Let me see if I can actually just undo it one more step to get it back into the LUT, because we're going to be manipulating the LUT. So if you have any questions or comments, hit me up, because I'm going to be sharing some information that I think is extremely helpful for people that are creating their own LUTs, or they want to get better and they want a better product for their followers. So I think this is pretty helpful. But this next tool, so now we have everything stored in this LUT now because we're in the mask. Just to double check, I'm just going to disable it, make sure it's reset properly. Okay, we're good. So we're going to come over here to this drop down tab, and we're going to select Smooth External LUT. All right, this is my secret sauce that I use. We're going to go ahead and we're going to crank this all the way to 20. Right there, smooth all. Okay, so what you're going to see, we're going to look at this video scope, and you can see the effect. This takes out all those imperfections, and it actually makes a really beautiful scope. However, if you looked at the image, it's changed the image and it's changed the color. It's not what we want. If I can do the before with the effect, that's the look we want. But this is smoothing out too many things, and now it's completely changing the look. That's not what we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to do something called protect the neutrals. And this is going to protect the neutrals, and you can see that it will maintain the look, but smooth out all the gradations that are happening in fine-tuned areas. So here, look at that scope. Look how clean that looks. We're going to go ahead and turn it off. There's before, and turn it on. And it really cleaned that up. It only tweaked a little bit of these other colors that were pushed too hard, but still maintained the look that we wanted. And if we did protect blacks, I usually do protect neutrals and protect blacks. And then I'll dial the iterations down to like 10 or 8. It all depends on how intense I need this to smooth out. But you can see that when I do protect blacks, it actually is affecting the image a little bit more than I would prefer. So I'm actually going to keep this unchecked for this look right here, so that I get the majority of the look while still maintaining a clean image. And then I'll click OK, export this image. Immediately, I've got a workable image that can work in a lot more different environments and will not fall apart. That's so important. So whenever you're LUT stress testing, or you're stressing your LUTs, this, I can't stress enough, is going to be very important for you. And if you're not taking this step, I feel like this is what sets people apart. And this is why we put so much time and effort into our LUT creation over at Gamut, is we want to provide the highest quality professional LUTs that work on all footage, that works in so many different environments, whether it's interior light, you have hard shadows, because a lot of the times LUTs are affecting certain noise areas. And you can even go here into your method and have it affect only noise or tension. There's so many really cool things that you could dial in. The majority of the time, I'm mainly doing smooth all. I'm going around 10, and then protect neutrals and blacks is kind of my default start, and that will give you really impressive results. Okay, so that is 3D LUT Creator. Then we're going to go ahead and take a look at Lattice. Lattice is another program that I have that I use. Both of these are linked in the description of this video too, so if you want to know more about those, you can click them. They are an investment, but again, we use this for all of our products, and it's extremely worth the investment on our end. All right. This is Bad LUT number 1. Whenever we load it up, we can actually see what it looks like on an image. I could change this image color space to accept this properly, because it's not a Rec 709 necessarily. It's, I think, red log or airy. I'm not sure. So anyway, we can see the effect of the LUT. Okay, we can see it's definitely darkening the greens. We can go over to the cube analyzer, and we can just take a look at how it's impacting the curve, okay? And we can see, is there any weird splits? Is there really anything spread apart or pushed or squished together really weird? And make sure that we're in bounds. Then we can come over to the curves, and this is what I use a lot in the curves. We're looking at this LUT. It's a 33 cube LUT, so we have 33 points on this graph. And you can change this to as many, like whatever size you want. You could scale it up if you wanted to. So if I wanted to go to, say, 65, it will change it to 65 points, okay? Or 17 or whatever it is. So if we're looking at this image, this is also where we input all of our metadata and stuff like that. And it's really cool to kind of see how this LUT is being impacted. Now, if I want to clean this up without affecting the image, I'll usually go over to 3D LUT Creator to really clean up like the cube aspect, the color aspect. And then I'll come over here to clean up the curve aspect, because you can use them differently, but this is the tools that I like to use. And the process is go smoothing in 3D LUT Creator, coming over here and then tweaking any imperfections I've seen in the curves. Now, the tool of choice is I'm gonna go up to Edit, which you might not be able to see on my screen. And I'm gonna go to Limit, and then you're gonna see something called L-Pan Smooth. This is going to smooth out the curve for us. After doing a lot of testing, I prefer to start in increments of 2. So smooth it out in 2 or 3. The higher you go, the more it's going to be altering the curve a little more drastically. So let's go ahead. I know this has pretty hard bumps. We might need to do 3. So let's go 3 and click smooth. And look at that. We can go back and forth, and we can see how it is fixing all of those issues that were found in the curve. It is adjusting a little bit. You're gonna see how it's bending just a touch. So you're gonna get some subtle change, but overall this will be very minute. However, you're now gonna be able to use this on a lot of different footage, and you're not gonna have any problems, at least mathematically, with this kind of stuff. So this is really powerful. I love Lattice. I use it for a lot of different other things. I can clamp stuff. I can move this curve straight to 0 or black, or to 1 or to 0 for black. I can also isolate the contrast. So this one, immediately I just isolated the contrast. So now this LUT doesn't have any color information. So it's just the contrast. And if I undo that, I can go isolate the color, and then that removes the curve. So it's able to really separate LUTs and tweak them. I can mix things. I can do color space transforms in here. I can mix curves. Over here, we can mix LUTs really easily. I can average out the curves, so I can make them all smoothed out in between each other, turn it into a 1D LUT. Honestly, there's so many different things that you can do. I've only scratched the surface, but L-Pan Smooth is going to be my favorite tool that I use when it comes to smoothing out the image. Limit, L-Pan Smooth, and I can change the LUT strength, all these other stuff. If I wanted to manipulate the actual curve, I would use that in 3D LUT Creator. That's the only difference. So those are the two tools that I'm using in order to get a really great foundational look. So if we come back to this first LUT and we look at our curve, so let's take a look at the waveform. I'm going to go ahead and come over to the grayscale patch, and this is what we're looking at before. So this was the image, or the look of the LUT on the scopes whenever I first built out Faction 6. Then after running it through Lattice and just doing a small smoothing in DaVinci or into 3D LUT Creator just to kind of get it fine-tuned, I'm going to come over here and you're going to see Faction 6. And now this is what the curve looks like. And if we do a comparison, I believe I already have this selected. So this is the final pass, Faction 6 right here. And then I'm going to enable the first pass. And you can see the difference right there on the bottom of the scopes. You can see before and after and how it's smoothed that area. But then the rest of the image is pretty close to the original intent of this LUT, and even kind of smoothed out the top range just a hair too. So overall, that is working wonders, and I get a really clean, workable image that still maintains the fidelity of the look and what I was going for. So that was really important. And then whenever I look at how this looks on real footage, you can't tell the difference, but you know that it'll work on all footage a lot better. So we have this one and then we have this one. They are going to look pretty much the exact same, but there's some cleaning up in the shadows that this now will work really well. And then we look at the footage and we're going to see, okay, we saw this one had a harder edge right here. And then we have this one that's just slightly softer. So now this is a very clean, there's nothing hard being broken in there. We look at this shot, really smooth. This one, all the patches line up well, and then we have a clean, workable curve. So overall, you can rely on all of our Gamut looks to have this level of attention to detail to know that your footage will have the best results. And that's what we really want to do and stand apart. We also want to educate people in order to have better products, but get really much better at color. And so I think this is something that no one's really talking about that I can think that can be helpful for you out there. If you have a LUT that you've gotten or a creator that's made it and you look at it and you've analyzed it and you're like, wow, this falls apart, you can now tell if that is worth your investment or not. Also, I did want to mention, which we're getting to the end of this live. So if you have any questions, just hit me up in the comments so I can answer them before we get to the end. But we also have another episode. We do these lives. We try to do them every week as much as possible. And next week, I'm going to be going live, but I'm going to be taking this process and I'm going to be analyzing submitted LUTs. So if you have a LUT pack or if you have a LUT that you want tested or you want us to clean up for you, I'm going to run it through live and show you how I would fix the LUT to make sure that the fidelity is there and that it's working across all different platforms. And I can send that back to you for you to have. We can also allow it where if you post and you want to remain anonymous, we'll keep it anonymous and we can rename the LUT to LUT1, whatever it is, and to showcase how we would work through all these different LUTs. And if you have a LUT pack that you would love to see, hey, I'm curious, how does this LUT stand up to footage? Or how does this LUT respond to this pack? The only thing we require is that you have to submit LUTs that you own and have created. Obviously, if you've purchased something, that doesn't give you ownership to share it with us. If you want to check with us, I have a lot of LUT packs. You can say, hey, I'm curious to see what this LUT looks like. And if I have it, we can add that to the list. Also, I think we're going to take recommendations. So if you have a LUT pack that you want us to test, let us know and we'll actually go and purchase some of these LUTs to test for you and show you how they respond and how they look up. And we're completely open about our whole process like this. And we want to showcase the importance of LUT stress testing, but how to actually do it and how to get the best image out of all of your looks for creating this. But also for that you can rely on and knowing that all of our Gamut LUTs have this level of dedication and detail so that you're getting the best image possible. So anyway, that is pretty much the majority of what I wanted to talk about in this live. So again, I really appreciate those that were here to tune in. I know that whenever this replays, maybe it's super helpful. Let us know in the comments if this is helpful or any other tools that you have found that has been really helpful in order to stress test your image, but also clean up your image. I'm always open to new tools and what that looks like. Again, click on our Typeform link in the description and fill that out. It's got a few questions if you want to submit your look, and we will create a list, and next week we're going to go live and we'll show you that process in real time of dialing in your looks and how we can make them better for you and things to look out for as we analyze it all. So again, I'm going to go ahead and hop off on this live. But again, thank you so much for joining us in this episode. Make sure that you subscribe and click that bell notification so that when we go live, you don't miss another video. Until next time, I'll see you later.